Hello and welcome in, everybody. We got One Piece chapter 1137 spoilers. Yo, I'm gonna start with the biggest part, and we're just gonna hop right into it, by the way. But we finally see what is up with the fake Shanks. It is confirmed. It's not a clone. It is a brother. So the guy takes off his hood in this chapter, and we get a name reveal. This man is not Stabs, he's not Penetrate, he's not Shanks, he is the Garland Shamrock. Yes, that is right. This guy's name is actually Shamrock. And this guy is not just the son of Garling, but he's also the new leader of the Holy Knights, the God Knights. Which is something we all kind of expected, right? If Garland gets promoted to Gorosei, somebody has to fill his spot. And what better person than the one son he has in the God Knights? So yeah, it all falls in line. And with that, I think we can start predicting what Shanks' name was as well, right? Because Shanks isn't his real name, we just call him Shanks, and that's what Roger called him. But of course, he does have a celestial dragon name out there. So now that we have Shamrock and Garling, I feel like predicting Shanks' real name should be a little bit easier. But yes, it turns out that this guy looks like Shanks, but he does not have a scar on his left side as expected. He most likely has a left arm. And then when he takes down the hood, we can actually see in this chapter that he has long hair. I'm glad Oda did this. I'm glad they're not one-to-one, because imagine if Shamrock ever fights Shanks. That would be confusing. I'd get confused as to who's who. So I'm glad Oda gave him some distinguishing features, and I do wonder, of course these are the brief spoilers, but I do wonder if we actually see what his outfit is like as well. Right, because Gunko was revealed last chapter, so hopefully he takes off like the full robe. But yeah, I want to see what's cooking down there, Oda. Not in a weird way though. So now, going on with the rest of the chapter, I'm going to tackle the Loki segment and God Knight segment first, and then we'll kind of talk about the beginning. So, outside of the Shamrock reveal, we actually see that Gunko is attacking Loki and the rest of his animals. It looks like more than just the wolf come to Loki's defense. Kind of sad, right? We're kind of just beating up a petting zoo. But Gunko actually has the Arrow Devil Fruit. No, she does not have powers bestowed by Emu yet. She just simply has a Devil Fruit, which is surprising, but not super surprising. Because now that we know that regular people can be recruited into the God Knights, then there is a chance that she's just not of Celestial Dragon blood, and she was just recently recruited. Because last chapter, when we got her name text box and her name reveal, she's not Saint Gunko, right? We didn't get Saint Gunko blah 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 last name, right? It was just Gunko. So something odd is going on here. And yes, while this is all going on, while all of Loki's animals of the underworld are being beaten left and right, he still refuses to become a celestial dragon. And we come to find out why they're pushing so hard for him to join. It is because they want all of Elbaf to become a part of the world government. That is their plan. That is why they're gunning so hard for him, and that's possibly why he had that special bounty. They did not want to kill this guy. So a lot of good things going on here, and now that we know their real mission, I think this brings into question what happened to King Harold. Did the God Knights play a hand at his death, or were they working with King Harold? Right? Because King Harold, his whole goal was to open Elbaf up to the world. He wanted to trade, he wanted to learn literature, he wanted a lot for Elbaf. And throwing it back to 2 chapters ago, another reason why I think the God Knights might have a hand to play with King Harold is because they spawned in his throne room. When the magic circle popped up and you saw Shamrock and Gunko pop out of it, you could see the throne in the back. So it's like, wait a minute, how did they do this? You know, like, at least for Saturn, he's a Gorosei member, and that was a little bit different. You know, he might have, like, a better magic circle. But for these guys, it's like, wait, like, can they just spawn in any building? Or have they been here before? Have we actually put down a magic circle in that very spot, and they're just easily able to teleport to it? So with all that being said, I do wonder where King Harold stands on the matter of joining the world government. Was he open to it because that would, you know, make Elbaf a peaceful nation under the WG, or was he opposed to it and he wanted Elbaf to retain its independence? I'm not too sure, but I think there are a lot of questions here. Like, for example, one question that's kind of been gnawing at me is why Loki? Why not Hardin? There's 2 princes in Elbaf, right? You could easily recruit Hardin onto your side. Well, not easily, he wouldn't do it. But, you know, like, why not approach him first? because he is like the weaker one. You could probably actually hold people hostage and it might work on him, right? You know, I bet Hardin and Loki have different stances on death and, you know, what it means to be a warrior, right? So I wonder what the goal is here. Did they simply want Loki because he's stronger than Hardin? Did they want Loki because they know he has a special devil fruit? Or is Loki supposed to be the one who inherits the throne over Hardin? Or perhaps another reason why they don't want to recruit Hardin is because he's allied with Luffy. You know, he's already a part of the Grand Fleet, so perhaps they're like, yeah, he is tainted by Sun God Nika, so instead, let's get Loki. But again, it could just be the whole thing where Loki's just stronger and they want him instead. I feel like there's a lot of reasons and a lot of layers to this. Because if you had to pick, right, if you had to pick a giant to join your crew, would you pick Loki or Hardin? I mean, I know who I'm picking, right? If you pick Hardin, man, it's only because you like him. It's only because you like him. So going to the beginning of the chapter now, because this actually all kind of loops around, but Luffy and the gang, Luffy, Zoro, Nami, and Roto, arrive at the castle. And it turns out there are a pile of corpses and skeletons littered throughout the room. And it's not because of Gunko. It's because of what happened when King Harold was assassinated. Apparently, they just never cleaned up the skeletal remains of the giants who died there, and the only survivors were Jarl and Loki. We come to find out that a lot of these skeletons actually have horns as well, which is really odd, right? We don't see a lot of giants with horns. The only giants we've seen with horns are Ors and Ors Jr. But it turns out that these giants actually had ancient giant blood within them, and that's why they had these horns. So it looks like they just gathered all of the ancient giants in a room and had them guard the king. Sounds kind of odd. Turns out that King Harold also had ancient giant horns as well. They have that blood flowing within them, which by extension, that would mean that Loki and Hardin also have that special blood, but they were not born with horns, at least to our knowledge. They might have, and then they maybe just like broke them off, because that is what King Harold did. And he really just did that because he hates violence. Maybe they associate the horns with violence, and King Harold was like, let me just, let me just break these off real quick. Kind of an extreme measure, in my opinion. Just don't be evil, right? Like, don't be violent. You don't have to break the horns, man. But yeah, a lot of interesting things going on here. It does kind of make me wonder if Loki has horns. Like, the horns we see on Loki right now, I believe that's because of his helmet. But, you know, there is a reality where those are the genuine article. Of course, I personally kind of err on the side of it just being a part of the helmet because, you know, Loki from the MCU actually has a very similar helmet. So I'm like, I'm kind of leaning towards that, but we'll see. So moving on, we get a big reveal about Loki's birth. While Loki and Hardin are brothers, they're not brothers like that because they have different moms. King Harold, he was a man who didn't believe in violence, but he believed in sleeping around. He loved spreading that seed. It turns out that Hardin and Loki have different moms, and Loki's mom could not become the Queen of Elbaf because of this. And now we can kind of see where Loki gets all of his rage from, right? This kind of feels like an Asker lad type situation. So yeah, Loki probably was pretty upset that his mother wasn't treated fairly, and maybe this even explains why Loki's mom died a year after she gave birth to Loki. And I just feel bad for Loki, to be honest. Like, we don't really know the details, but I can already kind of see where this is going. I will admit though, I'm proud of King Harold for treating Loki like a son still, because Loki does still have the prince title. If Harold wanted to, he could easily discard Loki, but it looks like King Harold at least brought him in and, gave him some shelter. But I don't know, like Loki said he grew up in the underworld, right? He's over here taming animals and talking to them. So maybe he was treated differently. And I bet a lot of giants treated him differently too. Maybe that's why he became a prankster. Going back to Usopp, it kind of reminds me of him, where his mom died at a very early age and then Usopp became the prankster of the village. Maybe we're looking at a very similar story. We also get a flashback about Kid Hardin and Road in this chapter, but we don't really get any details regarding that. But yeah, I'm glad Road is such a constant in the group that this guy is even showing up in backstories. That's so funny, man. Road is our tour guide here. Love it, love it, love it. But yeah, that is it for the chapter. It sounds amazing. It's got the bones of something really good. Hopefully, we see Shamrock fight. I want to see Shamrock, whip out the sword, whip out that celestial dragon power, and put these plebeians in their place, man. Oh, I love it, I love it. And also, another thing to differentiate Gunko and Shamrock is the fact that it looks like we get the full name Garland Shamrock, whereas Gunko is just Gunko. So again, I kind of wanted to just reiterate the fact that we don't know if she is a pure blood celestial dragon. And it looks like we might be getting a lot of those, right? We could have Gunko, we got York, which is pretty much confirmed by this point, and now they wanted Loki. How many non-pure bloods are there in the Holy Land, man? Ah, what a time to be alive. Great chapter. You know, I was afraid Oda would cut away and go somewhere else, you know, bring down the tension, but no, he is riding it hard. And guess what, guys? Guess what? For the first time in about 3 months, we got 3 chapters back to back. Sorry, I hit the mic. To back. What a time. Oh yeah, real quick, but one thing that I thought was pretty funny about the Shamrock reveal, and this wasn't me who found out about this, I saw it over on Twitter, but apparently there is a podcast called Shamrock and Shanks. Crazy coincidence. I do not believe that Oda was trying to reference this podcast, by the way, because if you click on their podcast, it only has like 10 or 5 views, and they post like 1 episode every year or something. So yeah, it's a coincidence. I don't think Oda's one of the 5 listeners, but yeah, shout outs to the Shamrock and Shanks podcast. But yes, with that being said though, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end this video. I am super loud. It is 7 o'clock in the morning. I feel like I'm waking up the neighbors. You know, I live in an apartment complex, very thin walls here, so apologies, guys. But yes, I'll catch y'all tomorrow when the full spoilers drop. Hopefully you enjoyed this drop, and peace out and have a great rest of your day. Let me know your theories about Shamrock, by the way. Let me know how you feel about that. I would love to hear all of those thoughts down below.